Hello and welcome to Essence Reflections. My name is Crysta and this is my 31 days of tarot. Actually, it's days 1 to 14 of tarot. I decided to kind of condense it and do a half in one, and I don't know if I'll do the other 16 days together or if I'll kind of break it up. We'll have to wait and see. Tell me what you think, if you like it this way or if you would like to have shorter videos, because I'm not sure. I've recorded this twice already. The first time the video didn't record. The second time the sound didn't work. So third time's the charm though, right? Anyway, so here we go. What tarot goodies did the holidays bring? Well, this year my partner and I are launching a nonprofit, and I'm also working on getting my tarot business off the ground. So our time and our energy are really devoted to those two things. So we decided not to do any holiday gift giving or anything like that with each other. So I didn't get anything new with tarot, and I didn't think that a whole video saying that would be that exciting. So I'm combining them. And then the next question is the top 5 tarot decks for 2019. And for me, that was really easy because I have exactly 5 decks. I have my tried and trusty Waite Smith tarot deck, which this is actually the same deck I started learning on in 2015, and I love this deck. Oh, this is one of my favorite cards actually. The 8 of Pentacles. And this is what I feel like I'm doing with these videos today, is just, banging them out and honing the craft and hopefully getting somewhere with them. So that has really been my main go-to deck all the way along in the years that I've been doing tarot. I also have this year started teaching tarot, so I wanted everyone to have the same deck to learn from, so I got the Radiant Rider Waite Smith. Anyway, poor Pamela. I learned Rider Waite, and then I learned about Pamela and how her artwork was so just silenced, or silenced that she did the artwork. So now I try and say Waite Smith, but my brain just doesn't like to make that switch. So anyway, it's really interesting. I thought, well, I wanted to get this so that everyone would have the same deck, and there were no original decks available at the store that I got them from. So I didn't think that there would actually be too much of a difference in using the 2 decks, and I was wrong. I've always found that the Waite Smith has been, it's what I learned on, so it's what I know. It's been fairly easy to read. But with the Radiant, it reads even easier. It kind of blew me away that there was such a difference. And the energy of the readings is a little bit different too. It's almost lighter, and it doesn't seem to get into the nitty-gritty quite the same way. Anyway, I won't get into that too much because I'm sure that's not what you're here for. I also have the Shadowscapes Tarot, which I love the artwork on this deck. I love, love, love it. It is so cool. It is a small deck, and I like the smaller decks like the Radiant and this one because I have very small hands, so it makes it a lot easier to shuffle. But with this particular deck, I think it would be nicer to have the large size because then I could see the artwork better. That's not really... I still love it. I don't want to complain at all. Another deck that I have is the Chakra Tarot. Am I saying that right? Chakra Wisdom Tarot, sorry. And I am just learning it. It's different from the Waite Smith Tarot. I mean, some of this symbolism and all of that is the same, but it almost tells a different story from a different perspective. And I really, really do appreciate how it goes. However, I have not spent the time that I need in order to be able to be comfortable reading it for other people. I do use it on readings for myself, and it takes longer because I'm trying to really understand the cards and connect with them intuitively. I know it's not all about just understanding the meaning of the cards, but that there's a lot of intuition, but I would like to know the basic structure. Ethony had a course, the deck creator, had a course through Ethony's summer school. So that would be Tori Hartman had the course, and I wanted to take it this summer, but it just didn't, it wasn't in the cards. So, yeah. Another time, and I'm also I'm comfortable with self-study, so I'll continue doing that. And I'll figure that deck out. And my final deck that I have, I think, is maybe my favorite right now, and that is the Good Tarot. And I just love the artwork on this deck. Now you know why I picked decks. It's because of the artwork, I think. And yeah, I love reading with this deck. It just flows beautifully. I haven't used it for client readings yet, but I might this year. I've used it more for readings for myself. And so those are the 5 decks that I used most in 2019. My top 5 Oracle decks. It's going to be really short because I own 2 Oracle decks. I have the Cosmic Reading cards. And this deck is great. There's actually quite a lengthy bit of information that comes with each card in the book that accompanies it. But they also read well intuitively, and they're excellent for kind of capping off a tarot reading because they are really great at just summarizing it. And I mean, it's always bang on with what the reading has been, and always adds a little bit more information to go on into the future with that. So I really, really love these cards. And the other deck that I have is the Druid Animal Oracle deck. And again, I like the artwork on these cards. Oh, they're upside down. And I love connecting with the Celtic heritage that I do have. I find that that's very fascinating, and it does resonate for me. So I really like those cards. Other card decks that I've seen that other people have that I really enjoyed were like the Enchanted Map and the Wisdom of the Oracle. I do like those ones, but I do not own them myself. I don't use Oracle that much. I use more Tarot. I find it just is more what I'm looking for at this point in my journey. And what has using Tarot taught you 2010 to 2019? Oh boy. So I found Tarot at a time when I was just really learning about myself and learning to get in touch with my emotions and accept my emotions, and even just acknowledge that I had emotions, because I was raised, like many of us, in a household where we were not allowed to feel anything except happiness, and it was punished if we showed emotions other than happiness. And so I learned at a very young age to squelch it and to ignore it and pretend it just wasn't there at all. And there were also some abusive situations that happened when I was young, and I stuffed those down as well. And as most of us know, things don't stay shut away. I started doing some unhealthy things in order to keep things suppressed, because it was all I knew how to do to cope, and that kind of came crashing down around my ears in 2012. And from then on, I had to start to learn to connect to myself. And it took 3 years to find tarot. And that was a real turning point for me, because I could use the cards. I learned to read them from a psychospiritual perspective. So it helped me to understand what was going on inside of me, and to kind of find a vocabulary for it, which was very powerful for me, and to connect the different pieces of what was happening. So it's really taught me about myself, and taught me about other people as well, because in doing readings for other people, I see that we're all so much the same. There's a lot that we can connect on, in terms of, we may have had different situations and different circumstances, but how we feel from those is very, very similar. So we can really empathize with each other and gain a lot of strength from each other in coping with what's happened to us, and moving forward and learning to thrive. And what decks are you anticipating in 2020, and why? Well, I'm not really anticipating any decks in 2020. With the businesses that we are launching and getting going, that's really where our focus is right now. I would love to find a deck that is inclusive. As someone who identifies as LGBTQ, I would really like to find a deck that is inclusive that way. And I read for other LGBTQ plus individuals, and the decks that I have, I can, use the different vocabulary and different ways of explaining things, and we can work around it, and it's not terrible. The decks that I have reading for people of color, there's absolutely nothing I can do to make these decks inclusive, and I would love to be able to see something that is more representative of our population. The Waite Smith, all of the decks that I have really are not inclusive at all, so I would like to find a deck that is inclusive and add that in 2020. So if you have suggestions for good decks for that, I would love to hear them. You can leave a comment below and let me know what they are. That'd be awesome. I have done a little bit of research into it myself, but so far I need more personal recommendations. The tarot card that stalked you in 2019, and why? That would have to be the Death card. I have been going through a dark night of the soul again in the last number of years, and it has just been coming to the point where I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the Death card has been a reminder for me that even though all of this is happening, it's happening because it's part of a transformation. It's not just I'm in a dungeon and that's it and I'm stuck there forever. It's things are moving in a direction to help me grow and help me heal. And so the regeneration part of the, there's the death and rebirth cycle that's embedded into the Death card. And so it has been a great reminder for me that this is all part of the cycle. And it's helping me to learn acceptance. Or it's supposed to be helping me learn acceptance. Yeah, I'm trying. What tarot books did you read in 2019? I read one, and that is Have Tarot Will Travel by Jenna Matlin. And I read it because I started a booth at the local market on Saturday mornings to do tarot readings there. And so I just wanted a little bit of help and guidance on. It's a little bit different than reading at a festival, but I mean, the book was very helpful. Had a lot of good suggestions in it and a lot of good information about what to expect. And So yeah, reading at the market has been kind of a mixed experience. It's a small town in northern New Brunswick, so dealing with a lot of preconceptions about what tarot is has been interesting. There have been some people who've been very brave and gone out of their comfort zone and gotten readings, and that's been really cool to see their perspectives shift on it. And yeah, it's that's the book I read. I wanted to read more books, but that's not really in my budget at this point. I had a bunch of books. 2 years ago, my partner and I lived in Ontario, which is a province in Canada, and we packed up everything we could fit, including our dog and cat, into our Honda CRV and moved 18 hours away to New Brunswick. And so a lot of the books that I had and some of the decks that I had did not come with us. They found different homes there. So I missed my books, but I'll get more. And what was a memorable reading in 2019? I think for me, there were like two of the most memorable readings. It's a small town, so I really can't say much at all in terms of detail. Were just situations where one person in particular felt very alone and felt very misunderstood, and the cards were laid out in such a way and came up in such a way that it explained her situation perfectly and with compassion, and showed her different areas where she could look to find the support that she needed, and it reminded her of things that she has available to her that she had forgotten, and it just gave her this sense of comfort and being supported that was just so beautiful to witness. And it's such an honor to be able to witness those situations. So I think that's the one reading that just warms my heart the most out of all the readings that I did this year. Yeah. Share some of your tarot decks that have been long lost in your collection that you want to reconnect with. Well, this little guy, the Shadowscapes Tarot, I had lost him partway through the year, and he just turned up. I don't know why I'm calling him a he. The other day in a box that I am positive I looked through a number of times. So I don't know why it was hidden, but it was. So I would like to reconnect with that deck. And before I moved, I had the Transparent Tarot, and it was awesome. It did really great in-depth readings, and I miss it. It's one that I wish I had brought with me, but hindsight is 2020. So if I could ever reconnect with that deck, I would, definitely. Show us your favorite depiction of the High Priestess and why. So full disclosure, the High Priestess is a card that I have difficulty connecting with. I tend to be more of a practical person, and I find that the High Priestess is more of a very woo-woo type card, and I know that there are some things that I need to work through and I'm working on it. So it's interesting that the High Priestess is the one that we're supposed to pick our favorites, because I have a hard time, like I find with the Rider, the Waite Smith, I'm very comfortable reading this card because I understand the symbolism and all of that kind of thing, but that's more from a psychological, rational perspective. It's less towards the intuition side of things. And it's interesting because I can read a lot of other cards intuitively, but often when it comes to the High Priestess, it's like there's a block there. And I know that's because there's work that I have to do. So in terms of comfort, I'm most comfortable with the High Priestess from the Waite-Smith because there's so much fodder there for giving a good reading of that card. I really do like this depiction of the High Priestess in the Oracle, the Chakra Wisdom cards. I really like the idea that's kind of embedded in here of the feminine mentorship, which I think is something that we're really lacking in our society. And I really do love this depiction of it. But I also find that there's not a lot of symbolism that I connect with beyond that in order to read, and that's not a fault of the card. That's part of my own issues there. The High Priestess in the Shadowscapes is one that I don't really resonate with a whole lot. But then again, I've been disconnected from the deck, so in a reading, who knows what would come up. The one that I love the most, just for the aesthetics of it, is the High Priestess from the Good Tarot. I just think this is an absolutely beautiful card, and just the feeling of it is very calming, but it's also still keeps the mystery and the kind of the gravity of the card with it. So I really do appreciate it. And I also, again, find myself inadequate to be, held up against this card. So in terms of personal work that I need to do in 2020, now we all know what some of it is. The divination tool outside tarot that you use the most in 2019. So the divination tool I use the most is the runes, although I did not work very much with the runes this year. There is one rune that I've really incorporated into my daily life, and it's always there, and it's something that I connect with on a regular basis. So I suppose you could say that I work with it that way, but in terms of doing readings for myself or anything like that, I haven't done that with the runes this year. In the future, I would like to connect with them more, but that's just really not, it's not in the cards for this year. Where would you like to be with your tarot practice in 10 years' time? Well, I am building a tarot business, and I would love to be teaching tarot to people in a very practical, useful way. I would love to see, even for myself, tarot become more integrated into my life, and not like here's time for tarot and then here's the rest of my life. I would like to see more of a seamless interaction between the two, because I think that it has so much valuable information and guidance and comfort and all of that for us. And I don't know that I know that I don't utilize it enough for myself. And I do think that it's a very, very powerful tool that other people could use as well. And I think so many people feel like it's not for them to access. It has to be accessed by someone else. And I know that there's a shift as far as that goes as well that's happening, which is fantastic. But I would like to see it go farther. And I would love to see tarot be more mainstream, something that people use for themselves often. So that's kind of where I would like to see my business going, and also my personal relationship with the tarot. That's where I would like to see that going as well over the next 10 years. And the last question for today is, do you have tarot tattoos, art, home decor to share or want? I have none. I would get a tarot tattoo. It's kind of something I've thought about. I think that would be really amazing. But if I was gonna get a tattoo, I would get a tattoo in the memory of my son. And he died 20 years ago, and I still don't have the tattoo. So, you know, the chances of getting a tarot tattoo are pretty slim. but I think it's a really cool idea. What would I get? I think I would get something to do with the star and the strength card, because let me tell you, that card is that's a very important card for me. Anyway, but in terms of want, there is someone that I follow on Instagram, and her name there, I don't know her personal name, but it's Dirtworks Ceramics. Dirtworks Ceramics, and I will put a link in the description box below, because she does amazing pottery, and I would love one of her tarot mugs. Love it. Just love it. See, that's the kind of thing of having tarot integrated into your daily life. I mean, it goes on a deeper level than that, but that's one thing. Very practical way. Anyway, so shameless plug for her. She has no idea who I am, but I love her stuff. And that concludes the first 14 days of tarot. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I'm really looking forward to watching your videos, and have been enjoying them so far. And yeah, I'll see you soon with the rest. Bye bye.